Hello and welcome to Wisdom Bites. Hope you're well. Thank you once again for joining us. Very much appreciated. And in today's packed program, I'm going to be going through exactly what's happened with this flash crash and what we can expect in the next few weeks and next few months. And the question we have to really ask is it time to run away from crypto? Is it time to panic? Is this the end of the world for Bitcoin? Well, we'll have a look at a few of the indicators which may be giving you a very strong clue as to the next few moves for Bitcoin. I'm also going to look at the 60-day cycle to see exactly where we are and where we're going to confirm the beginning of the new 60-day cycle. So if that sounds interesting, then without further ado, you know exactly what to do. Get yourself a cup of tea, sit yourself down, eyes on the screen. Let's get cracking. The usual polite reminder, please remember everything in my videos is just for educational purposes, so please always do your wider research before you make any investment decisions or any swing trade decisions. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the weekly time frame just to give you a good, strong overall picture of what's currently just happening. So far, over the last 8 or 9 months, this is what we've done. We've actually topped out at the 69,000 over here. We've cascaded down to these levels at around about the $34,000, $35,000 mark. And then we had a counter trend rally. Not just one, we had two, and then we've had three. And since then, the market has gone down from the first bottom here at 17.5 down to 15.4 thousand. And having bottomed out, we've had one rally, two rallies, and we've had three rallies so far. And in that process of the big upturn that we've had since the beginning of the year, we've created this wonderful 25,200 strong support line as well as resistance line over here. And what that's given us from a classical charting point of view is a wonderful pattern called the inverse head and shoulders. And you usually find these inverse heads and shoulders at the bottom of a very strong downtrend and at the end of a bear market. So with a high degree of probability, we had a look at this as we were coming down, and as per the pattern in this classical charting, we made a run up above this strong $25.2 thousand mark. And not only have we tested it once, but we have just recently, last Thursday, retested it for the second time. So all these things are relevant when I look at the picture here now in terms of what the fall in this price has done over the last week. So this is where we are currently. From the 4-year cycle point of view, and from that perspective, we've bottomed out here. We've broken this strong trend line at 25.2, tested it twice, and we have to really say, what do we do from here? Do we go up or down? So this is what I'm going to look at here. Always remember that whenever you have a very big fall like this that we had last Thursday into a strong support line, so a big fall into a big strong support line usually means, from a classical charting point of view, that there is a high degree of probability for a bounce back up. So let's have a closer look at this point here. And I'm going to look at it on the 4-hour time frame, because you see very good, strong patterns developing here. And these patterns, we have to be very careful because they start off in one particular type of a pattern, then they morph into another pattern, and then they morph into another separate pattern. So we've got to be very, very careful and look for confirmation rather than preempt at this point. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about that on this 4-hour chart, as we cascaded down from these levels here, around 29,000, all the way down to the 25,200, we're now forming a very typical symmetrical triangle here. But these patterns, if you've been watching them closely like I have over the last many, many years, they tend to morph into bull flags or bear flags. So what you might get here is a break of this symmetrical pattern down here. So everybody thinks that it's going to go much further. So the idea from the Bitcoin point of view is it's trying to shake you out. But what will happen is it'll create a bull flag down here. So this symmetrical triangle could easily morph into a bull flag for a break to the upside here. So we need to be careful how these patterns develop, and these patterns can change very easily. Within a few days, the price can go like this, and go back up and then get rejected exactly at this point. So it then becomes a side range and a side bound pattern here. So currently is giving us a symmetrical triangle, and usually a symmetrical triangle, when you had a big fall into it, is usually a continuation pattern. So this is what you would expect from this pattern currently. But like I say, it can morph into many different patterns, so we really need to be aware of that. And it's really designed to catch people out who are not aware of these things. The main thing is that this particular 25,200, if we do break this level here, I will be extremely concerned, and I would have to make very big decisions, which may be painful, of what to do with my long-term portfolio. So the big decisions we have is really concerning these points, because when the price comes down to these strong levels of support, is that it is more of a horror show. But you can either get shaken out at these points or look at it objectively and see what normally happens around these levels. Because so far, when you zoom out and have a look at this chart, we can see quite clearly that we have a zone up here where we've been recently rejected at around about the 31,000, and we have a zone down here at the 25.2 thousand. And so far, we've gone above the 25, up to the 30, 31 here, and again here twice, and twice at the 25.2. So far, we've been range bound between the 31 and the 25. And it could well continue in this range, we don't know. But certainly at this point, as I've seen from the other YouTube channels and the comments in those YouTube videos, there's a lot of fear that the price is going to go much further. And if we have a look at the fear and greed index for Bitcoin, just from last week over here, when the actual fear and greed index was at 50, within a week, it's dropped down now to 37 and 38. So there is a lot of bearishness that's coming into the market now. So while we've had a big red candle going into a very strong support line here, on balance, I'm going to show you with some of the other indicators why, on a degree of probability, i.e. a higher degree of probability, we should actually hold this support line and start making our way back to the upside. Of course, it can fall to the bottom side, because when it was up here at 29,000, as I've shown you in the last many videos, my probability was that 80%, the probability was to the higher side. And what we've really got is the 20% playing out right down to these levels. But I think personally that this is actually very bullish and very good for the longer term structure of this, as a good consolidation for a move to much higher levels. This is a very good base here, because this will have shaken out a lot of the weak hands, whereas you get the stronger hands, the smart money, to hold for the longer term and move in the right direction for us. Okay, when we zoom out first of all on the monthly chart, you may not be aware of this, but there is a very strong support line that's underpinning all of the price action going back to 2018, and that is when you make a trend line from exactly where it is here at the bottom at 3,100, we can see that we've got three very strong points where the price has actually bounced from. So currently, on the larger term time frame, we're well within the confines of a good structure being formed here. And the bottom of this trend line at the moment currently is around about the 20,500. And some of you with a very keen eye will be noticing a certain pattern developing here. And I just want to bring this to your attention, because you might need to notice this over the next 2 years, because this is what it may well be forming here. Where have you seen this pattern? Left shoulder, head, and are we making some kind of a right shoulder here? Well, only time will tell, but it's something we need to be aware of, because this right shoulder, we really don't know where it's going to top out, and we'll know that by the pi cycle that I show you regularly. So where that pi cycle crosses over, it could be at this point here around about the 69, or it could be slightly higher, but certainly it's forming this pattern, and we're expecting at the end of 2025 for this to come back down, and that would form a head and shoulders pattern, which is obviously on a degree of probability destined for the downside. So this may well be our last opportunity with Bitcoin before we have a super cycle to the downside here, so we need to be aware of that. Okay, so I'm going to show you the RSI on the daily time frame, and last week when we came back down, we hit the 13.2 on the RSI. And the last time we actually hit that 13 was here at the COVID situation in March 2020. So well over 3 years ago was the last time we came back to these levels. So these levels are representing a very similar situation to what we got back here in the COVID situation when we had this big bounce back to the upside here. It's very rare that we fall below these lines. So what I'm trying to say here is that on the daily chart over the last many years, whenever we've come down to these levels, anywhere around the 13, as you can see here, we've had bounces back to the upside here. So all along here over the last many years, whenever we've come down to these levels, we have had good bounces back to the upside. And those with a keen eye will have noticed something very important here. And that is, on the RSI, what we've done is make a lower low, whilst at the same time, we have now got a higher low on the price action, which is actually called a hidden bullish divergence. So on this basis, we should have some room to the upside here. And on the weekly time frame, it's exactly the same there. So it is actually forming on the daily and the weekly time frame. Another indicator which you may not have realized is that on the weekly time frame, we've now just got another blue buy dot over here. And these signals are incredibly powerful, and I'm going to show you why. This is something that you need to take into account, and this is that we should not be put off by falls like this, because when you look historically, whenever we do get a blue buy signal, we've sometimes got on these blue buy signals a fall, but they're usually a prelude to a bigger move to the upside. When we go back to 2019 here, when we got this blue buy dot, this blue dot came exactly at this red candle over here. And as you can see, when the price came down at this point, everybody, because we'd just been bottoming out around 3,100 and the price started coming back down, everybody thought this is going to go much, much further. But this blue buy dot came to the rescue, and look what happened. That was a prelude to the big move that we got all the way up to the 14,000 here. And if we measure this candle, this red candle in January 2019, from the top to the bottom of that candle was around 15%. And even though it fell a little bit further down, so altogether from that candle to the bottom of that was around about 18% fall before we started moving to the upside. And currently, this particular candle, just so you know that you don't need to be worried about these things, because this is what Bitcoin does. From the top of that candle to around 29,000 to the bottom of that candle at 25.2 is only 14%. So it's not as bad as it was in January 2019 when we had the big move to the upside. So these blue buy dots on the hash ribbons can be a very good prelude to the upside in a big way. And these red candles are merely a signal to shake out the weak hands. A similar thing happened in the first cycle here in January 2015 when we had this blue dot down here. This was the red candle that followed, and that was from the top to the bottom around 31%. So that candle was a 31% fall, and look what followed afterwards. A move back straight to the top of that, and then after that we got a series of other blue dots which were giving us a signal, a clue that here we were actually bottoming out. And with these three dots giving the buy signals on the hash ribbons, this was a clue that we are now at the beginning of the next bull market here. So very, very important, these hash ribbons. So while the price has come down for Bitcoin down to the 25,200 and everybody's in a fear mode, we have to look in the charts for what is actually the reality of what's happening there. And for long term, all I would say is that this is one of the reasons why people like Warren Buffett, who have been investing since the 1960s, yes, nearly 60 years ago, they very rarely ever get shaken out by these movements. However, because the Bitcoin has a 4-year cycle, the smart money would be to have a long-term position within a 4-year time frame. So once we bottom out at these cycle bottoms, then the next 3 years to hold for the top is a smart move to get in here and get out over here. Get in here, and we have another 2.5 years to where we expect the market to bottom out at around about the end of 2025. So that is where the smart money is going to be, on a longer term basis within a 4-year time frame. Okay, so I'm going to move on to a very important part of this video, and that is the 60-day cycle, because within the 60-day cycle framework now, we're moving to a very critical stage, and we're currently on day 67 here as we speak. So we're well into the 60-day cycle. As you know, there's a give of around about 10 to 15 days either way, so we could go lower, but we are looking for signs of a bottoming out and a move, just like the previous cycles here and over here and over here. What we're waiting for is confirmation of a bottoming out of the 60-day cycle for a move to the upside. And this is what normally happens at the bottom of a 60-day cycle. So this is exactly what we're waiting for, to see any signs of a confirmation of the new 60-day cycle. And what I've got is a resistant point here at around about the 30,400 level, because what we may get, and something that we need to be aware of, is that if we do make a move to the upside, we could quite easily get rejected here at this point and roll over one more time. So what happens is people seeing this get out at this point thinking that it's going to go much lower. And then when the market moves back up, they get back on the train here only to find they get a second run down one more time, just like over here. So this is what the market is designed to do, so we need to be aware of it. So for me, the 30,400 is still the big target to clear. Although if you look at historically, the recent past, this 27,300, we need to get back above that, but I don't think that's going to be a confirmation for the beginning of the cycle. It is a preemptive confirmation, but the real confirmation will still come at the 30,400. So there is a big long way to go, unfortunately, but some would confirm it here at the 28,400 level. So there are certain levels which would confirm the beginning of a new cycle. And it's the kind of risk reward people want to take when we're looking at the swing trades. And if we move a little bit to the left here, what we really don't want to have, and I've drawn this potential 60-day cycle from this one here, and what we really don't want to have is for a left translated cycle here, i.e. a quick move up to these levels at 30.31, and then another run down to much lower levels here. So there is a risk to that. I don't think it's going to happen. My probability for that is low, but it's something we need to be aware of, because we've just had a left translated cycle here after a failed cycle over here. So what we have is really a real test coming up over the next few weeks of what Bitcoin is going to do here. And we're already seeing some very negative sentiment in the broader market. When you look at a lot of the bearish YouTube channels, there's a lot of panic going on, and people quoting figures like 12,000, 10,000, 7,000, all the way down to 2,000 and 3,000 now. Just a touch on the strategy side of what I'm prepared to do and what I'm thinking of doing is that on this 25,200 level, my view is that this structure that we've got over here, if we do leave the $25,200 mark down here and make our way to the lower side, then for me that structure will have been broken on a high degree of probability, and then it becomes a real possibility to retest these levels here at around about 21.5 and then 19.5, 20,000 around here, all the way down to the 15,400. So there is that probability. Once again, I think the probability to that is much to the lower side, and the higher probability is for a bounce up to the upside here, with the reasons that I've given you earlier on today. And just like going into the 60-day cycles over here and there and over here, we can see that we can expect from the 60-day cycle, we can expect big bounces to the upside. And this is what I'm expecting over the next couple of weeks. If we don't get them, and if we carry on going sideways here, that becomes more of a continuation pattern to the downside. So you need to look out for the development of the patterns here. If it's a slow bleed along the way here, then the chances are that this is a continuation pattern to the downside. And hence I'm expecting big moves over the next couple of weeks to the upside. And my reason for getting out at the 25,200 is simply because to protect the downside. We don't know that if this breaks, how far this will go, and no one knows what the future is. We have to then protect that downside. Yes, it can break this down here and fade back up and then go on a big run. Yes, we'll have to just have a look at that, but we can get back on board after certain levels here if that does happen. And one thing I want to bring to your attention is that from every adversity you get opportunities. Every adversity here has given us opportunities of the past here. This is another adversity for me to be looking at the opportunities that may lie here. And again, we're talking about probabilities and possibilities, and there is nothing certain or guaranteed. And it's with that frame of mind that I'm going to be talking about here. And I'm going to bring something to your attention here, which is all about decision making and why making decisions at critical points of your life are very, very important. And this is a quotation I came across over 25 years ago. And what it's really saying is that we are where we are because of the decisions and the choices and the options we've taken in our life. And what Zig Ziglar is saying here is that you are free to choose. Nobody can make a decision for you, but you are free to choose. But the choices that you make today will determine what you have and what you will be and what you do in the tomorrow of your life. So why am I giving you that quotation? Well, 6 months ago, I started this private members club based on the Bitcoin miners, which are a leverage play on the Bitcoin price. And this is where we set up the Bitcoin miners club for those of you who are interested in the Bitcoin miners and the leverage play on the Bitcoin price. And what we do is we do an exclusive video for the Bitcoin miners every single Wednesday. And in those videos, we cover the technical analysis of the Bitcoin miners along with the Bitcoin price and the 60-day cycles, but we also identify long-term undervalued mining companies as well as the swing trades that we've done. So far, since the Bitcoin Miners Club was set up here, we've had 2 rounds of swing trades. The first round was here, the second round was here, and the third round I've just identified just a couple of weeks ago with a list of 7 companies. And we're expecting a similar outcome over here to what we did over here and over here. So these are the results of the first round of swing trades that we did with these Bitcoin miners on the left-hand side. So what we had was entry prices, exit prices, and the stop losses, and we did get stopped out on one of them here. And these were the results of the first round of those swing trades that we got. But if you weren't interested in the swing trades and just invested in these companies for the longer term, then these are increases that you would have got with those prices up to now, around about 200% on most of them. And these are the list of the second round of the trades that we've got here. And these were much better in terms of the results. So currently, about 2 weeks ago, I identified about 7 more swing trades based on the current 60-day cycle. So I identified them over here. So obviously the price of the Bitcoin miners have fallen just like Bitcoin over here. So what they're doing is presenting an amazing opportunity to get in for the next run of the swing trades, just like over here and just like over here. And in the upcoming Wednesday video for the private members club, I will be looking at those swing trades as we await for the confirmation of the start of the new 60-day cycle from where we are. And if that is something of interest to you, you can join the Bitcoin Miners Club for a very small fee, currently at $4.99. All you would have to do is to click the join button here or in the description box below. You're welcome to join for 1 month or for the longer term, and you can cancel at any time, hassle-free, with a click of a button. And this price will be going up from September onwards. So you have a month to try it out and see exactly whether that decision to join may be one of the best decisions you will ever make. And let me give you a little insight into the miners. It's very important you are aware of this. So this is where we are currently, and this is where we expect the 4-year cycle to end, around about the end of 2025. So what you have is around about 868 days, 124 weeks. And as per the historical movements, the Bitcoin miners are a leverage play on the Bitcoin price by about 5 to 10x. So based on that, where we are, we have around about 28 months to the end of this 4-year cycle, which means that based on the 60-day cycles, we have around about 14 potential rounds of swing trades from here all the way up to the end of 2025. And as we've seen on the first round and the second round, and currently the potential third rounds, we should continue the success on the swing trades between now and the end of 2025. So for those who decide to put aside their emotions here at the 17.5 and the 15.5, where everybody was expecting the price to go lower, but the charts, if you were watching my videos around these times, the charts were telling us a different story. And many people, along with myself, we jumped on board here and we jumped on board here because the charts were telling us that we're bottoming out. and that we were going to go into a new bull market. So all of us are still, even though prices come down here, we're showing a very nice hefty profit because we managed to make the decisions and take the opportunity through the adversity that was going on around here in terms of the sentiment. So the current fall that we've had down to the 25,200 currently, for me anyway, presents another great opportunity to climb on board what I regard as the greatest opportunity in crypto with the Bitcoin miners. And what I've been doing with the Bitcoin miners, you'll be very interested to know, is that since we bottomed out here at the end of 2022, I've been collecting data with the Bitcoin miners along here. And as you know, I've got a long-term position which I've got into down here, which I haven't got out of all the way up. I've been riding that long-term position all the way currently, but I've been collecting data for the Bitcoin miners just to see if there was an opportunity to actually trade the long-term portfolio without taking a risk. And I discovered within this data, which is ongoing at the moment, and I brought this to the attention of the private members in the Bitcoin Miners Club last Wednesday, that in October or November, I will be presenting that amazing opportunity which I've found along this journey here with that data. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that forward and present that opportunity on Wednesday, the 30th of August. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present that opportunity, not this week, but the following week on the 30th of August. But so far, up to the data that I've collected, it seems to be an amazing opportunity to increase units and holdings within the Bitcoin miners without taking hardly any risk at all. And it's an opportunity actually which you can use for the rest of your life in the investing just by collecting this data. It's very simple, very straightforward, nothing complicated, and risk-free. So with that intriguing thought, I'm going to leave it there. And if you found value in the video, then please do remember to like and to subscribe and to turn on the notification bell. And if you have any comments, questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Until the next time, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.